So today's topic is the 5 signs that you're leveling up in 2021. Let me just pin my video. So the 5 signs that you are leveling up in 2021. So the first one is that when your friends and family are starting to become dead weight, but this isn't in a bad way, this is kind of in a good way. So this basically means that you've elevated to a level that they haven't been able to see yet. And we have to remember that friends and family won't necessarily support us until strangers start to celebrate us. You know, a lot of people have already told us this, so we can expect it to happen to us as well. And when you're elevating your level of consciousness and when you're growing as a person and doing all this personal development, then not everyone is going to be on the same level of consciousness as you, which means you might not really relate to them on the same level anymore because you've grown to a level that they are not currently at as well. So when this happens, not everyone is going to be able to come that far with you on this journey yet. And something we need to remember that sometimes might be a hard pill to swallow is that not all friends and family are going to come with you on this journey. Yes, they might say they support you and everything like that, but in the reality of it, how many of them are actually going to stick by your side through the hard times, you know, through the times when, you know, you're going to be struggling, through the times when it's not going to be working out? Are they still going to have that belief in you? Are you still going to have that belief in you that you're still going to be able to do it? You know, so you need to remember this message isn't meant to be heard by all, it's meant to be heard by some. So not everyone is meant for this business, not everyone is meant for, you know, to grow in a way that we are right now. It might not be the time for some of the people, but this message is only meant to be heard by some of the people, and the people that do hear it are the people that it matters for. Let me just start IG live. One sec. Right. There we go. That's it. So the second sign is that. The second sign is that we have become addicted to learning. So when we're learning every day, we're reading every day, we're listening to audios every day, we're doing whatever we can to get the new information that can actually change our situation every day. This is when, you know, you're starting to level up in 2021. So when you actually become addicted to learning, when you basically become addicted, and being addicted means that you do it every single day, no matter what the weather is, no matter if it's raining, whether it's shining, no matter what's going on in your personal life, you're still going to get up and learn something new every single day. So have you been reading? Have you been listening to the audios? Have you been jumping on the trainings? You know, have you been coachable? Have you been addicted to learning and developing yourself as a person who is actually deserving of the goals that you're going to go out and get? Because you have to be addicted to becoming a better person. Because remember, it's not about what we want, it's about who we can actually become in the process of getting what we want. So, you know, how have you been working on becoming that better version of yourselves? Have you been addicted to becoming the better version of yourselves? Because it's not about what you want. As I said, it's about who you're actually becoming. So the people, situations, and circumstances are put in your path in alignment with what you desire, and it's based on your concentration on it. So if you're addicted on becoming a better person every day, that's where your main focus goes. That's where your energy is going to flow to, and where your attention goes, that's where energy flows to naturally. So when you're putting focus on it, that's what's going to cause your desire to increase, for starters, because you already know what you want because you're working on it. And also the people, situations, and circumstances will start being attracted into your situation. And just see if there's anyone else in the waiting room. Ooh, let's get back to it. So when you make the decision to become addicted to something, or when you make the decision to become obsessed, that's a better word. When you make the decision to become obsessed with this, it's only a matter of time before you're going to start seeing the results. And one thing I learned earlier today is that when you make a decision that's big, you're going to have to monitor it. So it's all right making a big decision, but if you're not managing that decision every day, and actually, you know, say you decide to start journaling, for example. If you make the decision to journal every day, then that means every single day you need to check in with yourself and be like, have I actually worked towards this decision today? Have I done anything that will help me achieve this goal today? You know, when you make a decision, don't just make it one time and then hope that you'll stick to it. When you make a decision, you want to actually monitor it and make sure you are working towards it every single day. Because when you make a decision and you don't actually like keep to it and you don't stick to it, that's actually breaking one of the 4 agreements. And I don't know if anyone's read the book, The 4 Agreements, but if you haven't, I would recommend it 100%. And one of the agreements is being impeccable with your word. And when you say something and you don't follow through with it, and you make a decision and then you break it like in the next day or in the next week, then you're actually sending mixed signals to the universe, because you say you want one thing, but you can't really even stick to it. So when you're not sticking to something, how are you supposed to send out the vibration? How are you supposed to stay on the same vibration of what you want if you're changing your mind every single day? You know, when you speak something into existence, it has to be with everything you speak. It can't just be you speak something once and then the next time you, for example, like journaling, like I mentioned, you can't say you're going to start journaling and then the next day you stop, but then you also say that you want your goals to happen as well. Because when you say you want your goals to happen, you know, who knows whether you're actually going to stay true to your word or whether you're just going to stop that as well, if you get what I mean. So what you want also wants you as well. You need to keep this in mind, because what we want, when we're putting out the energy, when we're putting energy into, you know, obtaining it for ourselves, that is attracting it towards us. So your addiction to learning is literally make a habit of it, like brushing your teeth every day. So if you do have a morning routine, then making a habit of, you know, when you have a morning routine, it's easier to incorporate these habits into your daily routine, like brushing your teeth. You brush your teeth every morning, but do you actually learn something new every morning as well? Or is it only when you feel like it? Because you don't brush your teeth when you feel like it. You brush your teeth every day because you know that it's gonna, you know, maintain the health in your mouth and stuff like that. But what about learning something new every day? What about maintaining the health in your brain? What about learning something new every day so that you can actually grow from it and learn new things, so that you can actually change the old way that you were thinking, to learn new things to think from, so that you can change the way you think, which will change your emotions, which will change your results and then your actions altogether. So that was the second sign, is that you become addicted to learning. And remember, if you're comfortable, you're in a place where you can't really grow, because when you're comfortable, when you're comfortable, you're in a place where you have loads to grow, but you just aren't necessarily willing to grow at the moment. That's why you're still comfortable. But when you're not growing, you're actually dying. So we need to remember that for as long as we're comfortable, we have that potential to grow. We just need to act on that potential and step out of our comfort zone in order to grow through into the infinite abundance, as I should say. So that's the second one. The third one is when you start relating to things that you never related to before. So you might start to feel more related to everyone else, or you might start to understand people's situations, or you might start to understand why you're at where you are right now. So with that, we need to remember that everyone is where they are supposed to be right now. So if you think that you are deserving of your goals and you're questioning why you haven't got them yet, it's because you still not deserve them, because you haven't learned the right things, you haven't done the right processes, you haven't maintained the same level of vibration for long enough, all of these things, right? But when we actually question why we're here right now, we don't actually realize that we're exactly where we are meant to be. We're exactly where we need to be right now in order for us to either, you know, relearn the lessons that we actually missed, that we thought we were going to remember, but we didn't actually remember. Because remember, last week I mentioned that there's kind of like levels. So when you pass level 1, there's a certain amount of lessons that you need to learn in order to get to level 2. Now, when you get to level 2, there's also a certain number of lessons that you need to learn. Now, when you jump from level 1 all the way to like level 5, that means that you haven't learned the lessons from level 2, 3, and 4. So the likelihood of you falling back to level 1 is quite high. Now, when you learn the lessons from the first level, you upgrade to the second level. When you learn the lessons here, you upgrade to the third. Now, when you do it this way, that actually means that when you fall back, you can only go back to the level that you just came from because you passed it, because you learned all the lessons from it. So the lessons that you learned from this previous level, say you're on level 3 now, you can't jump back to level 1 because you've already passed level 1, and the furthest you can go back is level 2 because you've learned lessons from level 2, and you've also learned the lessons from level 1. So you can use those lessons together in order to get you from level 3 into level 4. However, if you just jump from level 1 to level 5, you haven't learned the lessons, so you're going to fall back. Okay? So you have to do things that you've never done to get things you've never had. So that also comes under getting uncomfortable and stuff like that. So if you have started to do more things that you have never done and it's got you results that you've never had, that is a sign that you're, progressing in 2021. Remember, nothing happens by accident because everything is always in perfect alignment. Everything happens the way it needs to happen. Everything happens for you, not to you, because there's always lessons to be taken from everything that happens for you. That's why I said for you instead of to you. Because when things happen for you, it's to teach you a lesson so that you can then bounce back and go further. Okay? And also under this one as well is observing the masses and doing the opposite. Because it's not your job to get everybody to understand, and it's not everyone else's job to understand as well. So it's not our job to try and get other people to understand, because especially in the business we're in, if we need to try and convince people, there's literally no point because they already don't believe in themselves. They already don't believe in the opportunity. So it's not our job to try and make them understand why this is good for them. If they can't see it for themselves, then, that's kind of like their loss, isn't it? So, okay, yeah, so, and also another point that I was just trying to read there, it basically said that all you are taught, all you can be taught is however much the person who's teaching you is aware of. So me right now, I can only teach you what I'm aware of right now. Whereas someone who has maybe a little bit more experience than me may be able to teach you more things because they're aware of more, because they've experienced more. They've been through more trials and tribulations, So all that you can be taught is from people who are teaching you, essentially. And however much the people who are teaching you have been through is what you can get taught, if that makes sense. Yeah, the only way you can do better yourself is if you know better yourself. Because if you don't know, like, what's going on, if you don't know a certain thing, how are you supposed to implement it into your life? How are you supposed to apply it to your situation in order for your situation to be able to change? That's why loads of people, like, so like 95% of the world, they have no clue how to change their situation. They have no clue what's going on. They have no clue about, they don't even know that their banks trade in the flipping markets. But they are just unaware. It's because no one's told them. And that's literally it. But because they don't know any better, they literally have no way of doing better or anything like that. So you have to keep that in mind as well. And also, people only understand to their level of consciousness as well. So when you might be trying to explain something to someone and they might not necessarily understand or like grasp the idea of what you're saying, that's because you may have like developed to a different level of consciousness. So maybe think about when you were at the level that they were at. Think about how you were when you had that level of consciousness. Like, how did you think? What kind of thoughts were you having? Because when you can change the way someone thinks and you can show them how you actually overcame that obstacle, maybe when you can change the way someone thinks, that ultimately is going to change the results they get, because it changes the way they're going to act. And we all know that the thoughts control our emotions, which control our actions, which then ultimately control the results. And that is how, by showing someone and teaching someone a new way of thinking and giving them a new idea to think from, a different perspective maybe, that's how they can actually change what's going on and change the results they're getting in their lives. So the third way that you are leveling up in 2021 is that you start relating to things that you haven't related to before. And this can also be like breakthroughs as well. You start understanding things a bit more. Something starts to click. And that's because maybe like it's been repeated so many times in the one repetition, it just clicks in your head, you know? So that's the third one. The fourth reason or sign that you are leveling up in 2021 is that you are no longer affected by the outside circumstances. So with everything that's going on in the world now, especially, right, there is a lot of negativity, there's a lot of things going on that we have no control over, that we cannot let affect our peace, okay? So when you let the outside circumstances affect you on the inside, you automatically lose, because you're letting an outside circumstance control your way of feeling, controlling your thoughts, controlling your, emotions and your actions and your results, right? So there's nothing on the outside that can affect the peace that you have on the inside. It only affects you on the inside if you're actually bothered by it, for starters, and, something about it just kind of affects you. I know it's easier said than done, but a lot of people have like family stuff going on, all this kind of stuff, especially with the stuff going on in the world, like I said, right now. So we cannot let that affect our mood. We cannot let that affect our vibration, because when we do that, that means that's basically what they want us to do, right? Especially with like, as I said, everything going on in the world right now, people want you to be negative. People want you to not think that it's going to get any better. People want you to go with it and feel hopeless, feel scared, So when you don't let the outside circumstances actually affect you anymore, this is when you're going to find a lot more freedom and a lot more peace within yourself, because you know that no matter what is happening on the outside world, you know that you've got your back on the spiritual side, especially. So when you do this, you can put yourself in your own reality. So yes, you might be living in this world right now, but what's the life that you actually want to live? What's the life that you actually want to be living in right now? And just imagine that as your reality right now. Put yourself in the environment that you deserve to be in as well. And especially through the summer, we have to limit all of the distractions. We have to be very, very mindful of what we're actually letting affect our inner peace. Are we letting an outside circumstance affect us? Are we letting distractions get the best of us, especially in summer, So any thought that you have that's not giving power to your goals is basically a distraction. So yeah, how distracted are you? Just ask yourself that question. How distracted are you? How distracted have you been over the last few months? Are you letting what's happening on the outside and all of the noise, are you letting it affect you? Are you letting it distract you? Are you letting it take from your energy? Or are you focused? Are you do you know what you're focusing on? Like, how distracted are you, basically? So that was the fourth sign that you're leveling up this year. Now, the fifth sign is that your emotional intelligence is starting to grow. So what actually is emotional intelligence? So emotional intelligence is the ability to know how to respond to something rather than react to it. So the difference between responding and reacting is that when you react to something, you let your emotions take over. So when something does not go your way, the first thing you feel is most likely an emotion. Now, what most people do is actually they act on the first thing they feel, which is often a negative emotion. Now, when you react off of a negative emotion, this means that you're not in control of your emotions, and that's usually what causes most conflict, right? Now, when you take the time back to responding means that you logically think about these things before you make a response. So you actually take the time to, come up with a reasonable response. And we have to remember that, especially, in the world we live in right now, a lot of people are negative and misery does love company. So most people live their whole lives in the darkness, right? They live blind and they die blind because they have no idea about what's actually, happening in the world. And when they go through their lives without, doing personal development, without, developing as a person and as a whole, without actually understanding how the mind and the body and the spiritual and all of this stuff works, which is the majority of the population, right? They don't understand that they can actually make the change themselves. So make a decision today that for the next week or so, at least 2 hours a day, especially in the morning, if you incorporate this into your morning routine, for example. So if you incorporate this into your morning routine, just for 2 hours a day, or even 1.5 if you don't have 2 hours a day, but 2 hours a day is not a lot of your day. That's literally like 1/12 of your whole day if you think about it. And if you do this every day, it will actually set you up for the rest of the day. It will set you up to win, pretty much. So for every day, 2 hours a day, you're going to focus on your personal growth. You're going to focus on your personal development. You're going to focus on the habits that you need to change. You're going to focus on the habits that you need to maybe swap for other habits. Now with habits especially, you can't just cut out a habit. You have to replace it. So if you're going to cut out a bad habit, you need to make sure that you have a good habit there in order to put it in the same place, because otherwise, if there's just a gap, then you're going to eventually revert back to the old habit. So if you do want to change your habits, then just make sure you have something to replace it with. So what's a good example? I have one example, but it's a bit random. So for example, if you wanted to quit smoking, instead of smoking, you could maybe eat an apple or something like that. So you have to have something to replace it with in order for it to actually, work as like a replacement habit. Otherwise, you're just going to end up, if the apple's not there, you're just going to end up going back to the cigarette, But yeah, that was a bit of a weird example, but I hope it makes sense. And also with like personal development, and maybe when you read something or hear something and it stings, that means you needed to hear it, because something in that is what's actually going to heal you from, whatever you've been through, or it's going to help you grow. And also, we need to remember that we can't fix what we fail to confront. So maybe if you have some issues with like, let's say, communication issues or something like that. Let's say you have issues with like communication. If you fail to confront it, how are you actually going to fix it? And if it's something as big as communication, for example, how are you going to, how are you going to build a team? How are you going to communicate with your leaders? How are you going to communicate with your mentors? And outside of the business, how are you going to even communicate with family and stuff like that? So you can't actually fix something that you don't know is happening. So that's why I recommend, journaling and stuff like that as well, just so that you can become aware. Because once you're aware of something and you're aware of a bad habit, then you know, oh, I need to replace this with a good habit. Then you know, oh, I need to do this in order to change the way I handle this. I need to start responding to this instead of reacting to this, But yeah, that is the 5 signs that you're leveling up in 2021. So I'll just recap them. The first one is that when your friends and family's opinions are essentially like not affecting you anymore, because you already know where you're headed, you already know where you're going to go. It's just a matter of if they want to come with you or not at the moment. Now, the second one is you become addicted to learning. You become obsessed with becoming better every single day, because remember, it's not about what we want, it's about who we're actually going to become to be deserving of the goal that we do want. Okay. And then the third one was you start relating to things you've never related to before. So this can be something that just started to make sense. It can be having a breakthrough. It can be feeling more related to everyone. It can be feeling more aligned with your purpose, with what you're working towards, right? The fourth sign is that you're not affected by the outside circumstances. So this is kind of similar to the first one, where the outside circumstances in this case would be, friends and family's opinions. But yeah. And then the last one is your emotional intelligence has got better and you've learned to respond rather than react to situations. So that is the end of the call, guys. Thank you for jumping on, and I hope you got some value from this. Let me just stop the recording.